control, we have to trust Him. That's what David's trying to say here.
如果万事万物都在上帝的掌握之下，那我们应该完全的信靠上帝才对。
The sun declares it every day. It goes up, comes up on the east and goes down on the west.
这个太阳每天升起，每天落下，都是对我们的提醒。
And then you go down to verse 7.
然后从第7节开始。
The law that God gave, which is the Bible, the law that God gave is perfect.
他说耶和华的律法，也就是圣经齐备。
You can trust it.
就是我们可以信靠神的话语。
Do you have any problem trusting the Bible?
大家在座的哪一位弟兄觉得信靠这个圣经不能完全信靠的？有没有这样的弟兄
Does it ever come into your mind? Well, if I'm basing my whole life on this thing, can I trust this?
有没有过这1次、2次、几次的这种时候，你心里打一个问号？你说这个我一生，我这一辈子就真的相信这本书上说了吗？
Can you trust it?
这本书
Do you trust it?
真的这么100%靠得住吗？
Nobody trust it.
是不是100%靠得住这个？
Does anybody not fully trust it?
那有没有弟兄说我不是100%靠得住，也许90%靠得住？有没有这样？
Does anybody not fully trust it?
有没有哪位弟兄说我是不能说他100%靠得住，基本可以靠？有没有这样
And if you don't, then bring it up and we'll talk about it.
如果你觉得真的是我还是有一点疑虑的话，你可以把它提出来，我们可以在一起再探讨这个问题。
Max, do you trust the Bible? You do? Absolutely. Is the Bible true all the way from Genesis to Revelation?
I haven't read the whole Bible.
You haven't read. I'm not asking where you read. I said, can you trust it?
你可以从创世纪的第1个字一直到启示录最后1个字，你都觉得每个字你都可以靠得住，每一个字你都可以完全相信吗？
But you see, David is coming up with here. He accepts it. You see.
你看大卫在这个地方，他说他完全接受神的法
He
度。
says the law that God gave is perfect.
他说耶和华的律法全备，意思是耶和华的律法，用现代的话说，耶和华的律法是完美的。
We can trust it. We can trust the whole Bible.
我们不但可以相信圣经，而且我们可以相信圣经的完美。
Because the Bible leads us to know wisdom.
因为圣经最后带给我们上帝的智慧。
And God's instructions to us are based on truth.
神对我们的这个教导是基于真理的。
And as we read the Bible, we learn truth.
当我们学圣经的时候，我们是在学上帝的真理。
And anyone who follows God must walk in truth.
我们每一个跟随上帝的人都要在真理当中行走。
That's verse 9, I think.
这是在第9节。
Yeah, true. Judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether.
当我们看见第9节说耶和华的典章真实，真实现在的翻译就是它意思是它就是真理。
You see what David is trying to get across? There is no falsehood in any of God's commandments.
这个照对这个诗篇里讲，就是说在神的律法、神的话语里面，没有一丁点的丝毫的这个谬误。
Anything God does is just.
神所行的全然公义，
And those judgments warn us to keep away from evil.
而且这一些的这个神的这个警戒是告诫我们，我们要远离罪恶。
Now turn to Psalm 2.
我们来看看诗篇的第2篇。
David, you recited that just the other day, so you should remember it.
Yeah, I can.
You can say that. Here, David gives us a picture of the actual political scenario that governs the universe.
在诗篇2非常有意思，我们看见大卫 在3000年前就告诉我们，这个地上的这个政治版图，地上的政治人物将要做的什么事情。
So he starts out and he asks a question.
他第一句话就是一个问句。
Why do the heathen rage and the people divine a vain thing?
他说：外邦为什么争闹？万民为什么谋算虚妄的事？
He says the kings of the earth take their stand, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against His anointed.
他说：这世界上的君王一起来，承载一同的商议，要抵挡耶和华，并他的受膏者。
And let us tear their fetters apart and cast away their cords from us.
他说：我们要挣开他们的捆绑，脱去他们的绳索。
You see, David was showing us here that, telling us, like I said, this is the political scenario. God up there and people down here, and the relationship of the people to God. First part is the relationship of people to God.
我们现在看见，大卫在诗篇2里面就给我们描述了一个什么情景呢？就是一个政治的一个场景。神耶和华在天上做宝座，地下的人这些政客做地上的君王。然后呢，他们跟神之间的关系，就地上人和神之间的关系是首要的这个关系。
See, the world is in rebellion.
这个世界以这些王为代表的，他们带领全人类，实际上是背逆抵挡天上的神。
And before you and I became Christians, we were in rebellion too.
在你我成为基督徒之前，难道我们何尝不是跟神是抵挡神的吗？
See, the world does not want to come under the authority of God or of Jesus.
这个世界上没有一个政权，没有一个君王愿意这个降服在耶稣基督我们这个耶和华神的权威之下。
And before we became Christians, we didn't want to come under that authority. We wanted to keep the control in our own hands.
在我们信耶稣之前，我们都是一样，我们不想臣服在谁的下面，我们都想自己做自己的老板，自己掌握自己的生命。
But you see, David here wants us to understand God too, and this is the way he does it.
所以这个大卫在这个地方是要试图想把他认识的耶和华把它描述出来。
He says, the authority of God and his anointed son. His son was specially anointed for the work he had to do.
他说呢，这个他们要抵挡的是耶和华，并他的受膏者就是耶和华的儿子，就是主耶稣基督。那这个呢是耶和华差他的爱子到这个世上，要来成就一个特殊的使命。
But now in verse 4, David sees the other side of the picture also.
在第7节大卫看见了这个另外一个这幅图画的另外一面。
Here again, in this psalm, like in 37, God is laughing at them.
你看这个就像刚才在诗篇37我们看到一样，耶和华也什么就嘲笑那些这个地上的君王。
See, it doesn't matter how much they rebel, the end picture will be that God's plan is accomplished.
在第2章呢，这个在第4节是耶和华坐在天上的发笑耻笑他们，意思是无论如何，耶和华的神的计划必定要成就。
You see, verse 6, the king will be on the his king will be on the throne, not their king.
在第6节是说，我要立我的君在西安，我的圣山上，不是人的君王，不是地上选出来投票出来的君王。
And you go down to verse 8, and all the nations will be under his control, and he will rule over them in absolute power.
在第8节说，这个列国都要被赐给神的儿子作为基业，一切的这个地上的列国都要降服在他的权威之下。
You see verse 8, ask of me, and I will surely give the nations as thine inheritance, and the ends of the earth as thy possession.
在第8节说，你求我，我就将列国赐你为基业，将地级赐你为田产。
And any further, in verse 9, any further rebellion will be crushed by a rod of iron.
在第9节说，他必用铁杖打破他们。
And so, with this as a background, so okay, you have to realize that that's the political scenario. With that as a background, verses 11 and 12, David gives the word.